and welcome to the Reign of Blood podcast, brought to you by the Reign of Blood Festival team. So this is the podcast where you get a behind-the-scenes look at the con and the sharps and blood kinksters all over the world who will be celebrating with us. So this podcast is intended for mature audiences who have an interest in blood and sharps-based kinks only. So if that's not you, then this podcast definitely is not for you. So these are real stories from real kinksters, and so they may contain discussions surrounding things like health, mental health, kink, blood, self-harm, traumatic experiences, and more. So if you're having a rough day or these topics could be distressing for you, then we would advise you to come back when you're more ready to enjoy the topic with us.
Hey, amazing sharps lovers. Welcome to Reign of Blood podcast. This is Miss Kitten, all the way from Cape Town, South Africa, and I have the amazing Zion in the studio with me tonight. I love to connect with sharps players from across the globe, so I'm going to give the floor to this beautiful human and let them tell you who they are and where they're from.
Hi, I'm Zion. I'm from Tallahassee, Florida. I live in Georgia right now. I am mostly a sharps player at the moment, although I do really like impact, and I like many forms of sharps play, not just like needles. I'm thinking of getting into like artistic cutting and some of those other things. But I really like the artistic aspect of needles, and I like the way they feel, and like I just love making stencils with them. So I started my sharps journey in 2021 with some baby needles, some 25s, and just kind of went from there after I realized I liked it. And like whenever I first started finding more sharps players that could like give me what I wanted and that were like willing to like explore with me in different ways with sharps play, it kind of like really took off for me. And I was like, wow, like I can like explore all of my dreams in sharps play if I just like find the right people, you know? So that happened this year in January. So since January 2024, I've kind of been like developing a lot within sharps play and like exploring a lot and like what it means to me and like how it feels to me and like what I love about it.
Amazing. And I've seen some of your work, and you're also on my little needle server, so we've connected a little bit. And I really love your stencil stuff. So before we get into the rest, do you want to tell us a little bit about your stencils and what inspired you to, I know that you're battling with a platform that you're selling them on, but in the near future, plan is to have some of them available for purchase, which is really fun and exciting because they're really brilliant stencils. So I'm keen to shop. So do you want to tell us a little bit about how that got inspired and got started?
Oh, yeah, I would actually love to talk about that because there's so much that goes into it. So I have always loved visual design. Like I love music and like other kinds of design and forms of art too. But like, even though I love music, like I've always just been more drawn to like visual design and art. I'm actually in a design profession. I'm an architect because I like just love visual design so much. And like that, it lets me find like an outlet to like express myself. But I am a self-taught artist from the age of 12. I primarily used ink on paper, and I did a little bit of painting, but I mostly like ink on paper and did a lot of like really geometric, like symmetrical kind of like abstract art. And like that was just really time consuming for me. So whenever I started college, I was in college full time for 5 years, and I didn't have a lot of time in college to like do my art and like explore that. And so I kind of just stopped doing it for a long time. But then whenever I started seeing people's like stencils and like the art they express and like everything they do through needle play, I was like, wow, this could be like a really great outlet for me. I should try like making stencils. And it's really similar to the art that I used to do because a lot of the art I used to do contained like lines and like geometric shapes. And it was like, wow, like this is so similar because I can use the needles as the lines and like I can use the design of the needles as the shapes. So it was like like a perfect fit. It's like fits like a glove for me. So yeah, so I primarily do like symmetrical and like mandala type designs with my needle stencils, and so that's kind of where like the inspiration for that comes for me.
That's so divine. I've recently discovered the hand poke tattoo community. And it's also really beautiful because it's sort of like a marrying of two things. There's a girl on there that does hand poke tattoos of stencils that she makes for fabric design. So she carves a stencil out of a wooden block, and then they dip it in ink. And that is what she uses as a base for her hand poke stencils. And then she pokes the tattoo over it. But it's the same as listening to you. It's like the one side of your life that's that creative side that's sort of flowed into the design side, that's then flowed into your kink side. And it's just so beautiful to see something connect and marry. I really love it. And I've seen some of your stencils. They're just gorgeous. Your face needle one is absolutely divine. And I want to talk a little bit about that because I think we all started exploring face needles almost at the same time. I do think Miss Birds is responsible for my love of face needles and the beautiful feeling. And I know that as a bottom and as a top, it's one of the best piercings for me personally. It's one of the most intimate and exhilarating and happy piercings, and I always feel so beautiful when I'm wearing face needles, and I never want to take them out. I want them to last forever. So I just wanted to sort of get your feedback on your experiences with face needles. What was the first session like for you? Would you do it again? Yeah.
Oh, that's actually crazy that you say that about face needles, because I feel the exact same way about face needles. I don't think I've like quite pinpointed what it is about face needles that I love so much, but in my face is definitely my favorite place to like have needles. And if it wasn't for scarring and like societal like expectations and like being like professional in the workplace and not having scars all over my face, like I would do like higher gauges in my face all day because like that sounds like a dream. But yeah, no, so whenever I was attending some of the Rob classes, I attended Willow's Fucked Up Faceplay class, and they talked about how like with needle play in the face, you can't really like escape it. And I was like, that's not really like what it is for me. That's not quite what it is for me. But I think like, I don't know, just like taking like something that represents who I am, which is like my face, like the face represents who the person is, and like adding like your own like artistic expression to that is like a huge part of it for me, because like I like the way it feels, but I also just like love the way it looks after I'm done. And it's like, I just feel like it represents me so well. Like I see a picture of my face with needles and I'm like I really feel like I'm looking at me. Do you know what I mean?
Right. And I feel so beautiful. Like I look at the pictures of me with needles in my face and I'm like, that is so beautiful. I feel so pretty while it's happening. And then afterwards, like I really also like so relate to the image. I also think there's something about the bravery for me that goes into wearing the scars on my face almost. You spoke a little bit about the scarification being more prominent on something that's sort of like society facing, like your face has got to represent you all the time. So I think it's also like a bravery thing for me. It's really truly owning my needle passion and sort of wearing it out there, even if I'm not wearing the needles out there, but the scars are sort of always visible. So for me, it's a very honest, authentic way of saying like, this is really who I am. I'm also not quite sure how to connect it yet. It's something that I'm just absolutely loving, like the entire experience. I just want to stick needles in my face all day at the moment. It's my best ever.
Yeah, no, exactly. I feel the same exact way. And like I said, I haven't like quite pinpointed what it is about it. Maybe it's just that like, it's just the way it feels. And that's just nice to me, because some things are as simple as that. Like it is what it is, like the act of it. And like, it just makes you feel really good. And like, that's how face needles are for me. Like, they're so cathartic.
Right. And they're like the entire piercing experience, like is a different type of pain. I don't know if there's an area on your body that you find most sore. Is there something that's like your like bucket list pain area on your body that you've done?
Okay, like something on my body that I have where I haven't had sharps that I really want to have sharps.
No, that you've done that was like the most painful. For me, it was my fingertips. It was like epically sore. Like it was like a straight to a 9 out of 10.
Okay. You. So I've done a few piercing needles on my thighs, and I was like really surprised that my thighs were like so sensitive. It's like, damn, this is some major real estate I'm losing out on, because it's like the perfect place to pierce. And like you can self-poke there, and it's like so much skin to work with, and it's like the perfect amount of elasticity and everything. And it's just like, oh great. Okay. So I'm definitely gonna have to explore that. But one thing that I really want to do more of is that I'm really proud of is needles under my fingertips, because I've done needles under my fingertips before, and that shit is so painful. Like it feels like it's like going into the bone. I mean, it's not, but that's what it feels like. And so that's like really intense. And I've only had one needle under each fingernail before, but I really want to get up to like 2 or 3 because like there's this porn star that I really like. Her name is Rain DeGray, and she has a video where she took 2 hypodermic. Oh no, they weren't hypodermic needles. They were actually like safety pins, I think, under each, or they looked like safety pins. Maybe they weren't. They were a special kind that were like sterilized, or they autoclaved them or something. But she took 2 of them under each fingernail, and that was like really inspiring to me, especially because it's sharps play, and I love sharps play. Also, like I've come to that a million times. I don't know if that's like appropriate to say on this podcast, since like that isn't what this is about. But like that was a major part of it for me. Is like, wow, like I can be the porn that I watch. You know what I mean? Like I can be like what I love to see others do.
I absolutely love that. I think that's amazing, and you're allowed to say whatever you want on this podcast. We have we put it under explicit content, and we put a trigger warning on it. And those who want to stay, and those who don't want to stay, leave. Okay, so good. Really, like this is like a super safe space. I think just quickly on that topic, like there's so few places we can talk about sharps openly. We can share openly, and I think it's hugely important that people hear the truth about the authentic side of needles. Like it's my journey was really insular for a long time because our community here is really small. So like connecting with other people and having this like conversation like this, I've got the biggest smile on my face because your experiences are similar to mine. And it's so cool to not be the only person in the world that put needles in your thigh 5 years ago and nearly died. Like it was the source thing. I was so surprised. Like I so related to that. It took me 2 years to be able to self-pierce my thigh. I was so sore. I'd get 5 needles and I'd be like, oh my God, I'm dying. I can't do this. It was just, and it wasn't a great pain. It wasn't like intense pain like my fingers, but it just wasn't a great pain. And it was so painful. And then I sat down one day and I was like, no, I have to do my low bass. Like I'm not going to let somebody else do it. Like it's one of those things that I think I have to do myself. And I just started piercing with 18 gauges on my thigh, and I got to like 11, and the pain changed. It was a different feeling, and then it became better. Like I don't know how exactly to describe that, but literally, if you go through my Fetlife profile, you'll see these really cute pictures of like 6 needles with a ribbon and a bell, and that's like the sum total of my thigh piercing. I was like, hell no, this is like that, and that was a huge achievement, and it took me like an hour at the time. And the low bass, like I did the one thigh, and by halfway through I was great, and the other side it wasn't the same pain. And I think it was a very mental thing for me. And now it's the most comfortable feeling. Like now sticking needles in my thighs, like coming home. Like it's a really comforting sensation, and I really enjoy it. And like you say, the skin's great, the real estate's great. There's so many great attributes. Like I'm thrilled because otherwise, there's very limited real estate estate from a self-piercing point of view. So I'm really glad that I moved past that. But it took me 5 years. It really, like, my journey started, and it started with 3 needles at a time.
Oh, so your journey started with like self-poke in your thighs?
Yeah, so I've always done like the CBT on others, but I quite like to do the I really believe in kink. Like, you can't top for something that you don't understand. And I think you only get good at something if you practice. And like, needles is that one kink that, like, you can perfectly well practice on yourself. Like, it's one of those. Yeah, it's one of those things that, like you said, the real estate's good. There's plenty of it, so there's no reason not to. And it took me ages to get past it. So yeah, and then just one day it was okay. It was fine. So, but the pain in the thigh, like even my tattoo on my thigh was incredibly sore, like next level sore. And I normally go to sleep having a tattoo done. I was nearly in tears, and I'm not a baby with pain, so I do think that it's a sensitive area.
Yeah, it is a sensitive area. And you said like needles are like coming home to you now. I think like in that way, I'm still like growing and adapting and learning about like what it feels like for me and like the way that evolves throughout the scene, because like needles when you first start versus needles like whenever you've taken like 50, 30 or 100 or whatever of them is definitely like different feelings. So I'm definitely like learning more about like what that means for me and like how that feels for me, and like what pushing myself looks like with needles, because they can feel like really easy when you first start, and then like later on they don't feel as easy, or like you hit like a nerve bundle somewhere and then you're like, oh my god, that really fucking hurt, and then like you get in your head about it and you're like, oh my god, what's the next one hurts like that, even though the next one is easy, and it was just totally out of the blue that one hurt. And like, I don't know, it's a big like endurance thing for me, and like wanting to push myself through and like wanting to achieve like what I saw, like what my vision was. And like, obviously, like I know it's safe to like call it quits at any point and like safe word and everything. But like you get to a point where like it hurts or like it's uncomfortable and like you want to push yourself through for that, for the feeling after, for like the artistic expression, for finishing the stencil, for like being proud of yourself. And like, that's just stuff like I'm learning a lot about still.
Yeah, I find it a big mental game. And I think the one thing needles do for me is they make me very present. Like the outside white noise stops. So everything becomes super chilled in my head and I'm super like hyper focused.
Yeah.
And I find like if I hit a spot where I am then super sore and I get too much into that journey, too focused on how painful it was or how that pain made me feel, or if I get too focused on that, then I almost get back to the white noise in my own head, and I start falling down the stairs in my brain, and then I know that the sessions, like I either need to refocus and be present again and concentrate on the job, not on where I'm allowing my brain to go. And I think self-piercings help me a lot with that. And I think having a task to do while experiencing the pain has made it easier to endure the pain. I don't know if that makes any sense. I've never explained it before.
Yeah, no, like for me, the stencils definitely feel like a goal. And like when I set a goal for myself with like how many needles I'm going to take, like that definitely helps a lot. Like, it's actually kind of crazy to think about like how much that helps, because okay, so whenever I first got 1,000 followers on Fetlife, I was like, oh my god, the best way to celebrate getting 1,000 followers on Fetlife would be taking 1,000 needles. And I really wanted to take 1,000 needles. And I think I had taken like maybe 50 up to that point, but I was like, I could totally do it. Like we were just using 25s and I was like, I got this, 25s or nothing. And I ended up getting to 636, and like that was a lot for me. And it got like the pain was like too much at that point. I was like, I really can't take anymore. But like it took a while for them to start hurting for me. And I think it's because like I had that goal set for myself, and like I had this like idea in my head and this vision, and like this thing I was striving for, and it really helped a lot. But you talk a lot about self-poke needles. I've done like a little bit of self-poke needles. I have done some with like 25s in my thighs before, which were okay. But I don't really prefer them. I think it's a lot more cathartic for me when someone else does it, and like the connection I have with my partner and like all of that is just like stuff that I really look for in a scene and like when I'm doing needle play. So I don't really self-poke that much. I'm sure if I did, like I would learn a lot from it. Maybe in the future, like I'll explore that more when I feel like more comfortable.
I'm such a control freak. I think that's part of the reason why self-poke appeals to me, because I can control everything. Like I'm not relying on anybody else. My community's quite new to sharps and stuff, so a lot of the tops I've taught. So I always feel like the instructor in the situation, even when I'm a bottom. So it's difficult for me to relax enough and put my trust in them. I think that's the difference for me in the situation when I've had tops available to poke that are established and experienced tops. I'm super chilled, but that's not always possible in my community situation. So I think that's why the self-poke has been more of a journey for me. It's simply my control freak issues coming out, and I'm like, I don't know if I trust you.
Yeah, I think the self-poke stuff for me is like about the pain. I'm just not good at like giving myself that kind of pain. But like in terms of like controlling it and like being in control of it and like guiding the scene and like even guiding the person a little, I can relate a lot to that because like I have a lot more experience with sharps play than my top Coco right now. So like I help her learn a lot by like us playing and her topping me. So like I can kind of relate a lot through that because like we do a lot to like help educate each other when we want to try new things and like when we're learning about sharps play. And so yeah, I just wanted to say I could relate to that.
I'm desperate to ask you about your 1,000 needles. I know that it was only 600, which is an enormous amount. Let's just be realistic. That is a huge achievement on its own.
Yes.
But the setup for that scene, did you open everything beforehand? What prep went into that? What did it look like?
So actually, we could have prepared way better. So before that, since we had done a lot of stuff that was like mostly like smaller amounts of needles, we didn't really think about like unwrapping the needles beforehand and everything. So and I don't want to like put down the top who did this because like he did a lot of amazing work with me and everything. But we were kind of like I was like, he was into sharps play before he met me, but like we explored a lot together, so we were like learning together. And while he was putting the needles in, I was helping him unwrap the needles. So that's kind of like, I know you're probably like, oh my god, wow, I can't believe you were like unwrapping them while you were receiving needles. But like I was like, I'm not gonna make you unwrap them all because like I'm just sitting here vibing, like I can unwrap them too. And so there was a lot more prep that could have gone into that. And it was kind of like, we thought it would take like less time than it did. And we were kind of like running a little bit low on time at like toward the end because like we had other arrangements like after the scene and everything. And so it like felt a little rushed and we didn't prepare as much as we could in terms of like getting everything like set up and everything like set out and everything like that.
Yeah, so I think the things that you're talking about are things that we've all experienced. You're not alone. Like you get better at setup and you get better at organization, but you don't know what you don't know. So the first time you do it, you have no idea. Like now I open the needles. I spend the 2 hours before the session opening all the needles and then I go have a break. I put covers. Yeah, I put covers over the containers so that they stay as clean as possible, and then I go out and I have a break so that there's a gap between the activities as well, because even just opening that many needles is a lot of work. And then I also have a second in my dungeon, which I'm really lucky to have. So I have somebody who twists the needle and then passes it to me. So the actual piercing, I'm just responsible for pulling it out and piercing. I'm not actually responsible for anything else.
Wow.
But from a time perspective, like, you don't realize just that action of not having to reach for the next needle, not having to twist the needle out, not having to think about it. So the needle's literally handed to me almost ready to go. So I just pull it out the end bit and use the cap and then toss the cap away. And, the system's really good. So having that backup and support is like, it's really... I can't do half the stuff I do without having a second like that, because the time period is just too much. And then I do think it's that mental game, and you can only stay in that mental space for so long. And then my brain, even as a top, my brain checks out. Like, there's, I start to get super sadistic with my piercing and the needles are going in super harsh, like, because my brain is not, and then I know it's time to stop because my brain is then not focused on the action. It's starting to leave and, fall down its set of stairs on its own and do other things. But so I really try and just sort of enjoy the privileged moment of that, like, quietness in my head and the concentration and the hyper focus, and just acknowledge when that's enough. So I like the fact, I really have great respect for you, because you were able to call it and say, like, that's enough, like, I'm done now. And I think that's awesome. I also think things like you being in a rush and needing to go somewhere, I think all of that plays on that mental game as well. Like, I think it's really important, if you're going to do a scene like that, the rest of the day is taken care of and planned out beforehand. And I know for myself, like, if I'm worried about going home to feed the dogs or do something ridiculous like that, like, it affects me completely in everything else I'm doing, because I the control freak in me hates to be late. So even just feeding the dogs and being late would put stress in the situation for me and just take me away from being present. But that's a huge achievement. That's really amazing. I've done 260 needles, so that's like, I feel like a baby.
You're definitely not a baby.
So but that 600 is huge. Like, we've planned it. We saw that we had a bottom early in my needle journey, and we just started out, and, like, the internet's not great with piercing stuff, like play piercing stuff. It's really like, it's quite gate kept and you can't really find info. But what we did find was, like, the Guinness World Record of, I think it was 3,000 needles at that point, just over 3,100 or something like that.
Oh, you were talking about it in the server, because I remember that conversation, I think.
Yeah, we were like super, like, we can do this. We can super do this. Like, if we plan this, we can do this.
Definitely could do that for sure.
But it's not as easy as you think. And then I did, like, a whole bunch of research on it and found out that the guy, like, the first time they did it, they completely didn't get there. The first time they did it, his body temperature dropped from all the biochemistry that was running wild from all the piercing. And it just wasn't possible. He actually had to stop because he was about to go into shock. So it's just super interesting that, just, going back to the fact that, like, you don't know what you don't know, like, they didn't know what they didn't know either. Like, they also had to do it a couple of times to learn from it. So I think that the most important thing in kink for me is that learning process, is the journey, is to be able to say, like, okay, well, that didn't work so well this time. I mean, the first time I did a face skewer, I pierced it so perfectly. It was like the most perfect piercing. But in my planning, I managed to get the forceps stuck in the middle of the needle in her mouth.
Oh, no.
So I was like, okay, this is great. And you look absolutely beautiful, but you have a giant pair of piercing forceps hanging out your mouth now. Now I've got to cut the needle to get the forceps out. And then the needles went skew. I was like, damn, that was like such poor planning. And even, like, I hadn't thought that through and I hadn't realized until I got there. And I was like, oh dear. Yeah, we're stuck. So yeah, I just think, and I think that accountability is what makes it so important, because otherwise people see the work on your page. I mean, you've got some epic pictures and you've got some really divine needlework. They see that and they think like life is perfect, and it's not. And half the fun of the needle process is the learning and the journey. Is there something specific that you have enjoyed learning and that you have experienced as like a memorable learning moment? Doesn't have to be as fabulous as my face needle story.
I don't know if I have like one of those moments actually. I mean, I did learn a lot from like that one day though that we were trying to do the 1,000 needles and like nothing was prepared. Like I definitely prepare a lot more now, and like I actually kind of find it like cathartic to like get the sharps container out and like get all of the like kidney trays out, like with each like different size needle in it, and getting like the kidney tray out for like the caps to go in and like all that kind of stuff. I really like doing that. But I don't something I did learn actually that helps a lot is I really need to be in like a really comfortable position, because then I can take like a lot more pain. It's the same way for me with impact play. Like I can do bondage and stuff. I don't really prefer to do bondage with needle play, at least like not yet in my journey. But like if I'm like sitting cozy on the bed, like crisscross applesauce in like my pajamas, or like naked if like someone needs to access the rest of my body, and like the temperature in the house is really good, and like I have like a blanket or a plushie to hold, or like I can hold on to like my person's shirt or something while they're doing the needles, like that kind of thing makes a huge difference for me. And I realized that when I hadn't tried hooks yet, and it was my first experience with hooks. They were like they were tiny hooks, barbless. I think they were like maybe like 16 gauge or something. And like I that was like pretty big for me at the time. And I took 2 in each finger on each hand, and then so that's 10, and then I think I took like 16 to 18 hooks on each hand, and like I did not have to stop once during that scene, which was like kind of crazy to me. And I realized like after it that it was because like I was sitting in a comfy chair with my legs crisscrossed. I was super comfortable. I had like my plushie. I had like a really cozy sweatshirt on. I had a blanket over my legs, and like it was just like I was the perfect temperature. I was in the perfect position, and like that's probably like one of the biggest things for me, that like just exploring like doing sharps play in different positions and like under different circumstances like has shown me, is that like if I'm really comfortable, I can take like so much more, and it makes like so much of a better experience, because I can really focus on the sensation of the sharps instead of like the sensation of like something else, and getting distracted by like being uncomfortable or being too cold or being too hot or like sitting in a weird chair. You know what I mean?
I 100% know what you mean. And I think it's also a biochemical reaction a little bit there as well, because I think when you're in a happy space, like then I find sharps quite a happy play. And it's more a giggly, relaxed environment. I find if I'm nervous or tense, or I'm worried about something else, or I'm uncomfortable and fidgety, that the play's more anxious for me, and there's more adrenaline involved in it. And then I don't last as long. So I definitely agree with that. I learned quite a bit like from Solaris when I first started. I don't want to say stalking her profile, but I'm literally stalking her profile. She always had these sharp scenes that had beautiful sharps, but then, so the sharps were really visible. The idea of the cold steel metal piercing the skin was really visible. But then, like, she had these amazing fluffy blankets. Like, her bottoms were always puffed up on fluffy blankets and always like supported. And like the contrast for me was what I really loved in the visual, like the really harsh reality of the play against this really soft, nurturing surroundings. And I found that, adding a little bit of that to my play really improved it for my bottoms. And now, like, I'm so not the chick that walks around with like a comfy, fluffy blanket. But now if I do go and play, I have this like ridiculous comfy shirt and this ridiculous comfy blanket that I take with me, and like your plushie, like saying you're getting, this comforting feeling. Even me, who's super sadistic, has this like ridiculous fluffy blanket. And we do quite a lot. We do quite a lot of like demo stuff. So we'll go to clubs and stuff and do quite a lot of sharps demos. And it's always like a different vibe than when you're sitting at home in your pajamas and you are just, you're just sort of interacting on a really comforting level than when you're in a crowd or you're in an environment that is not the same feeling. So I relate to that quite a bit. And I did sort of stalk Solara. She knows though. She's okay with it.
Yeah, no, she's really great. I actually needed some info recently on like larger gauges and like how to not damage the skin as much, like how to not tear it and like how to get it to go in better and like how deep I should do it and like the risks associated with like deeper piercings with like larger needles. And like we did like an hour or so like Zoom call just about that, and she ended up like making a writing for it on Fetlife, and like it was so helpful. Like I was like, wow, you have so much information, just let me pick your brain forever.
Yeah, she's absolutely amazing when it comes to information, and she's really helpful in all kinds of situations. We call her the info fairy because she's just,
oh my God, yes.
She has like this endless amount of info. Like you've got to be careful what you ask because you're going to get the right answer and a lot of it. But it's great, and it's really been a huge part of my journey. I really enjoyed her artistic cutting. I don't know if it's something I'm ready to do yet, but just the class and the information provided in that class has really given me a whole new understanding of my own journey, and also the safety precautions and the knowledge that is required to get to that point. So yeah. So what's next? What is next in your plan for Sharp Things?
Okay, so I really want to get like my first Lobus because I don't have any Lobus yet. Actually, now that I think of it, tonight I'm going to, me and my top Coco are going to do some needle play with 18 gauge needles. And we're going to get probably up to 50. I think the stencil I have only uses 36, but we'll probably like just put the other 14 somewhere else so I can get my Lobus. But I'm really excited about that because I haven't taken many 18s, even though like in my back, like it wasn't like I've taken a few in my back and a few in my thigh. They were pretty sensitive in my thigh, but like on my back, they felt really good. And we're going to use some lube too to kind of help with that process a little bit. But yeah, I have a really pretty spiral stencil that I'm excited to use. So we're going to do that tonight. And so, yeah, that has 36 18 gauge needles. And like, I'm just super excited for like that and like the catharsis of it. And like, it's not at a party. Like we're just going to be at home. Like, I'm just going to be in bed with my daddy. And like, we're just going to be like connecting together and like going at our own pace, and like that's really nice, especially when you're trying like something new or like needles that are a little bit larger. I think it's really nice to like you said before, like not have anywhere to go or anything to do or anywhere to be, and like you're just like there with like your top or your bottom or your person, and like you're just like connecting and like going through the experience together, going at your own pace, like just feeling things out and like really getting into those like feel good emotions and like all of the good neurotransmitters, like all the dopamine. So that would be really nice. So I'm really excited to get my first Lobus, and I really want to try some 12s again soon. But yeah, like I said about the scarring and stuff in my face, like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know if you follow Angel on Fetlife, but like, oh my gosh, I'm so, like, she takes so many face needles and I love it. And I just like, this would be like my dream, but like, I don't have plans of this because of the scarring, but I wish like I could get Lovis, like just from my face, like just with like 12 gauge or like 14 gauge or something. Cause like, I've taken, one of like the nicest, like, and one of the most cathartic and like one of the most, the the needle play experiences in my face that I'm most proud of was when I took 14 gauge needles through my eyebrows and through the bridge of my nose. Oh my God, it was so nice. And like, it just felt really nice. And like, I took all the breaks I needed, and like, we went as slow as we needed to. And like, I just felt so amazing. And like, especially like when we took the needles out and there was blood running all down my face, it was so beautiful and like just felt really good.
Love the feeling of the blood running down my face afterwards. It's so beautiful. I love watching it on my models, and I love feeling it on myself. It's one of my favorites. It's just pure freedom and total relaxation and catharsis. It's just absolutely incredible. I'm really excited for your low vast, and more excited for your connection with the top that you have. I think the one thing that I found is needles have really deepened the cubic depth of some of my relationships, and it's really been super fucking special. And having something like a low vast that I have done with people who really matter to me, the afterwards it's such a milestone in the relationship, and it's really just been such a beautiful privilege to be able to do that with somebody that is special and connected to me. So I love that journey for you, and I love that journey for your top as well, because I think that, you know, the achievement it goes both ways. There's an achievement for the bottom and there's an achievement for the top. I don't have much advice to offer you other than we're really bad at counting needles. So we count them twice before we start, and we set them up, and we do them in packs of 10, and we have little number cards. So we do 1 to 5 and then 10 needles each. We always do one extra because we have this horrible habit of, like, for some reason, messing up the counting and being 1 needle less than we need to be. So,
oh my God, I didn't know that was like a universal thing that always happens. It always happens.
It's terrible. My maths is normally quite good. I don't know what it is that when I open a needle packet, like, I forget how to do any maths. Literally, like, simple maths, like counting, it becomes almost physically impossible for my brain. So yeah, so that's the only advice. Other than that, I hope you guys have the best time. And yeah, I really have huge admiration for your journey. I've loved the interactions that we've had. I enjoy spending time with you. Whenever we get to interact, and I'm super proud that you're in our community and that we get to have the privilege of you being part of our little server, and the help that you give me is really amazing, and it's just lovely to see you grow. So I'm sending you lots of love and thanking you hugely for this chat.
Yes, yeah. Thank you so much. This was really nice for me too, and I love chatting about Sharps Play, and I love being a part of this community. Like, I'm like, as someone who's newer to the Sharps community, I have been like entirely and completely like enveloped with love and like just completely welcomed in this community, and like I really love that. And like, honestly, this chat is like even like just another part of that, you know? So that's really nice. I'm so glad I could be here and like to talk with you about all this.
Amazing. And for all my listeners, I'd just like to say lots of Sharps love to you guys too. It was a bit of a sad end for us for Rain of Blood. We felt a bit lost, I think. And we're going to carry on the podcast and carry on bringing you some Sharps news, and then start getting ready for Halloween. So if you guys haven't seen, we have our Halloween special coming out in October. We're going to do some spooky Sharp things. And from me in Cape Town, lots of love and kitten kisses.